Hi everyone, in this video we are going to take a look at implementing another access control list rule. This is part 2 in a series, so if you haven't already looked at part 1, I invite you to do so. In that video we take a look at implementing 2 separate access control list rules. In this video we're going to take a look at implementing one more. It's going to be a simple requirement, but it will allow us to highlight and reinforce some basic principles of implementing ACLs. So let's get started. So the requirement that we will work with in this video is the following. As a group manager, I need to be able to edit my group that I'm a manager of in order to maintain the group description. A very simple requirement, but one that can pose some difficulties. It can be a little bit tricky if you are not really sure about how access control lists work. If you remember our first video, what was the golden rule? The first thing that you need to do whenever implementing or when confronted with a security requirement, or in fact, any requirement in the platform. You need to see what currently exists in the platform. How do you know if you need to create a new record, modify an existing one, or maybe not do anything at all because in fact the requirement is as it currently is in the platform? So let's take a look now at this requirement and what we currently have for modifying group records in ServiceNow. Okay, let's start off by looking at a group record from the perspective of the manager of that group. In this case, I am logged in as Beth Anglin. She is the manager of this group, and as you can see, she does not have write access. It's read access only. So let's take a look at the access control rules for the group table. I'm going to switch over to my system administrator session here and go straight to the groups list, which is the quickest way I find to get to the ACLs, is just go to the list or the form for that table, and then to come to the configure menu here and then go to table. You can go to security rules as well, but they will also show you the ACLs for any parent tables. In our case, there are none, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to go to table and come down the bottom here to my ACLs. And we're only interested in looking at the right ACLs for the entire table. So let's quickly filter this list. Let's show only the right ACLs for the entire table. Okay, so we can see here we've got 3. So now we just need to go through each one to see what the conditions are. And that will be the difference between all 3. The access control rule is the same. It's a write access control rule for the table. The difference will be what conditions you need to fulfill in order to get that ACL. So in this case, you need the agent schedule manager role. Let's look at the second one. This one, you need the skill admin or the user admin role. You don't need both, so when you have multiple roles here in ACLs, they are separated by an or operator, so you need one or the other here. And it's different actually if you have a condition here, because then it will be an and condition between the roles and the condition. So I would need to either have the user admin or the skill admin role, plus I need to fulfill whatever condition is in here. Let's look at the third and last one. And here we need either the Scrum admin or Scrum master role. Okay, so for our requirement where the manager needs to have write access, none of those are appropriate. We could actually go ahead and modify any one of those, but then we would be adding another condition to an existing one. So not only would you need to be a manager of that group, you would need to have whatever role is specified in that ACL. So in actual fact, we need to create a new ACL. So let's go back to our list of ACLs and let's go ahead and create a new one. Okay, so we've got the table here. We haven't got any other restrictions for the ACL. It's actually for the entire table, so we'll just leave that as it is. And if I scroll down, we just need to create a simple condition here to say where the manager field, and here we can take advantage of this dynamic operator here, is dynamic, and then it will default to me. There are other options here as well, but again, translated into plain language, that will mean the currently logged in user. If they are the manager, they will have write access. So let's go ahead and save that. Okay. Now, this actually will not work as is. Let's go down to the ACLs here. Let me remove the filter for the table so we can see all right ACLs. So we can see here we've got now 4 for the entire table. But you can see here also that we've got some other ACLs, right ACLs, for specific fields, and also with this wildcard, which means every other field for which there isn't a specific ACL. Okay, so if I come back to Beth here and just refresh the page, you shouldn't need to log out and log back in. As long as you haven't changed role assignments, it should be fine just to refresh the page. The system will take a look at that new ACL. And we can see here nothing's changed. She still has read access only. Do you know why? Just take a moment to think about that. Why doesn't she have write access at this point? Do you know? Well, we've granted her write access to the table. That's step 1. We need to do that, absolutely. If we don't do that, there is no way known to mankind that she will be able to have write access to that table, okay? But once she gets in, once she gets through the front door, if you like, we've also got these other ACLs. So at the moment, we've got these wildcard ACLs. We've got these specific ACLs here for specific fields. And Beth is not assigned, or the manager is not part of the condition for any of these ACLs. So at the moment, managers can get in. They've still got read access, but they can kind of got write access, but for no fields in the table. So that's what we need to change here. So in our case, we actually need to add another ACL, a second one, with the wildcard here to say, let's grant access to all fields except for these 3 fields here because they have their own special ACLs. Okay. We could browse and open up each one, but just to save a little bit of time, we'll just go ahead and create a new one because I know already that these ones are associated with other roles and they are not suitable to be modified in our case. We need to create a new one. So let's do that. Let's click on new again. And this time we'll go ahead and specify that asterisk, that wildcard. In other words, an access control rule. Once we get into the table itself, what fields can we change? All fields. Again, except for those 3 ones that have their own ACL. And if we scroll down, we just need to put the same condition in here that we had before. So where the manager field is dynamic me. And that's it. Submit. So again, when you're creating ACLs, just pay attention to what ACLs there are, not only for the entire table, but what ACLs there may be for specific fields, or maybe those wildcard ACLs for every field, except for those ACLs for a specific field. Okay, so let's test this. Let's go back to Beth and refresh the page. And now we can see she has write access now to these fields. Name, she could actually change the name, select another manager, add a description here, change the email address, but she can't change the parent. There's actually a good reason for that. Do you know why, perhaps? Maybe while you're thinking about an answer to that question, let's go back and have a look at the ACLs again. And we can see here for that field, that parent field, there is a separate access control rule. Okay, so if we open up that one, what conditions do you need to fulfill? You need to have either the user admin role or the admin role. Okay, so that's restricted. Okay, and there is actually a very good reason for that. Again, do you know why? has to do with the way roles are inherited and group roles are inherited. So if you specify a group here, this group, the service desk group, will inherit all the roles that come from that parent group that parent group has. So if you were to give a user the ability to change this field, they could theoretically come in here and say, okay, let me put the admin group in there. The admin group that has the admin role. Now, I haven't tested this, but it could probably mean that the users in this group, in the service desk group, would also get the admin role from that group. Now, I'm not actually sure if that would work because there are usually some extra checks and balances whenever you're assigning the admin and the security admin roles. But for any regular group with some regular roles, they would flow down to any child groups as well. And actually, as a best practice, you shouldn't necessarily do that. It makes role assignment a little bit more complicated because roles can contain other roles, and there's that method as well for assigning more than one role to a user via the group. So, but that's a topic for another day. So that's it, everyone. That's how you would go ahead and implement yet another access control list story. It was a very simple requirement, but as I said, you do have to be a little bit careful because there may be access control rules, not just for the entire table, but for individual fields and also for every other field with that asterisk access control rule. So just granting access to the table itself may not necessarily be enough. Okay, so I hope you found this video helpful and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.